Welcome to Sleepy News. Today is 10th July, and now we will dive into today's news, but extra boring, so you can sleep to it. Subscribe so you never miss a new video when you are about to sleep. Sleep well. Segment 1. Sean Combs sentencing scheduled today. We begin with a legal update involving Sean Combs. A judge has now set a date for his sentencing. That date is October 3rd. The judge who made this decision is U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian. Sean Combs was recently found guilty by a federal jury in Manhattan. The jury found him guilty of 2 charges. These charges were about transporting people for prostitution. Because of these convictions, he could face up to 20 years in prison. However, the jury did not find him guilty of the more serious charges. He was not convicted of sex trafficking or racketeering conspiracy. These were the main charges in his 8-week trial. Prosecutors had said that Mr. Combs was running a criminal group. They said this group helped hide sexual abuse for many years, but the jury was not fully convinced. They did not believe he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt on those more serious charges. During the trial, the court looked at many types of evidence. This included bank records, text messages, and videos. Some of the videos showed 2 of Mr. Combs's former girlfriends. One was Cassie Ventura. The other was a woman known only as Jane. These videos also showed male escorts. Both women said they felt pressured to take part in these situations, but Mr. Combs's lawyers said the women were not forced. They said the women agreed to be involved. Even though he was not found guilty of trafficking, Mr. Combs was still convicted of moving people across state lines for sex work. This included both women and the male escorts. After the verdict, the judge decided not to let Mr. Combs go free on bail. He is now in jail. The time he spends in jail before sentencing will count toward his final sentence. Segment 2. A tragic case in Minnesota. In Minnesota, a man named Jordan Collins Sr. has been charged with second-degree murder. He is 38 years old. The charge is related to the death of his teenage son, Jordan Manny Collins, Jr. The younger Collins was reported missing on May 8th. He had been living with his father in Columbia Heights. His mother reported him missing. His father told police that the boy had left the apartment to visit family. But the boy's girlfriend said something different. She said he had been at his father's home and had not talked about visiting anyone else. On May 15th, police searched the father's apartment. They found garbage bags with what looked like blood. They also found several knives. Parts of a mattress and carpet were missing. After that search, the father stopped talking to police. Later, DNA tests showed that the blood in the apartment belonged to the missing boy. On May 13th, a garbage truck had picked up trash from behind the apartment. This led police to search a landfill in Elk River. On June 28th, they found human remains there. The remains were identified as the missing boy. An autopsy showed that the boy had been killed by decapitation with a knife. This was ruled a homicide. When police arrested the father, he had a large amount of cash. They believe he was planning to leave the state. Prosecutors have asked the court to consider extra factors when deciding his sentence. The defense has asked for a quick trial. Segment 3. How to age. Well, experts say that living well as we get older is just as important as living longer. 2 doctors, Dr. Carrie Burnite and Dr. John Batsis, have shared advice on how to age in a healthy way. Dr. Burnite says there are 4 important things to focus on. These are growing, connecting, adapting, and giving. Growing means learning new things. Doing activities that are new and a little challenging helps keep the brain sharp. It also helps the brain grow. Physical activity is also important. Moving your body through hobbies or gentle exercise helps keep muscles strong. It's best to choose activities that you enjoy. That way, you'll want to keep doing them. Connecting means having good relationships. It helps to have friends of different ages and backgrounds. Making plans, remembering birthdays, and staying in touch are all helpful. Feeling lonely or isolated can hurt your health. Staying connected can help you live longer and feel better. Adapting means being flexible. Life changes, and it's important to adjust. People who stay positive about aging often live longer. They also feel better day to day. Giving means doing things for others. Even small acts of kindness can bring joy and purpose. Helping others can make you feel more connected and more alive. You don't need to do something big. Even small choices each day can give you a sense of meaning. Planning for retirement is also important. It helps to start hobbies before you stop working. That way, the change feels smoother. These tips can help at any age, not just in older years. Segment 4, California and Title IX. The U.S. Department of Justice has filed a lawsuit against the state of California. This lawsuit is about a rule that lets transgender students play on school sports teams that match their gender identity. The Justice Department says this rule breaks a federal law called Title IX. Title IX is a law from 1972. It says schools that get federal money cannot treat people unfairly because of their sex. A top official at the Justice Department, Harmeet K. Dillon, said that Title IX was made to protect women and girls. She said California's rule might take away chances for girls to play sports, win awards, or stay safe. California leaders say they've done nothing wrong. They say their laws protect LGBTQ plus people from unfair treatment. They also say students should be allowed to play sports based on their gender identity. This disagreement is about how to understand civil rights laws. The lawsuit could affect a lot of money. California gets over $44 billion in federal education funds. About $3.8 billion of that is still available to use. The lawsuit asks the court to stop California's rule and possibly award money damages. In the past, President Trump has also said he might take away federal money from California over other state programs. This new lawsuit adds to the ongoing debate between state and federal rules. Segment 5. Deportations to South Sudan. The United States has deported 8 people to South Sudan, but only one of them is actually from South Sudan. The others are from Myanmar, Cuba, Vietnam, Laos, and Mexico. U.S. officials said these people had been convicted of violent crimes. Their home countries would not take them back. So the U.S. sent them to South Sudan instead. This is part of a new policy. The U.S. wants to deport people, even if their home countries say no. Some courts tried to stop this, but the Supreme Court said the deportations could go forward. South Sudan's government said it accepted the people as a sign of goodwill. They are now in the capital city of Juba. But not everyone in South Sudan agrees. Some people are worried that their country is being used as a dumping ground. The United Nations also spoke out. Human rights experts said it is wrong to send people to places where they might be in danger. They said this could break international law. Segment 6. U.S. hosts West African leaders. The United States is holding a meeting with leaders from 5 countries in West Africa. These countries are Liberia, Senegal, Gabon, Mauritania, and Guinea-Bissau. The meeting is about business. The U.S. wants to build stronger economic ties with these countries. This is a change from the past, when the U.S. mostly gave aid. Now the U.S. wants to work together on trade and investment. The leaders will talk about how to grow their economies. They will also talk about safety and democracy. The U.S. is interested in natural resources from the region. These include manganese and uranium. This meeting comes at a time when China and Russia are also working with African countries. The U.S. wants to stay involved and offer a different kind of partnership. Segment 7. New tariffs announced. The U.S. has announced new tariffs on goods from 6 countries. These countries are Algeria, Brunei, Iraq, Libya, Moldova, and the Philippines. A tariff is a tax on goods that come from other countries. These new tariffs will be between 20 and 30%. They will start on August 1st. There will also be a 30% tariff on goods from South Africa. The U.S. says these tariffs are needed to protect American businesses. Some of the countries affected have said they will respond with their own tariffs. Segment 8. European Commission. President faces confidence vote. Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, is facing a confidence vote. This vote is happening because of concerns about her private messages with the CEO of Pfizer during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some people believe she did not share enough information about those messages. They say this raises questions about transparency and trust. Ms. von der Leyen has denied doing anything wrong. She says the accusations are part of a larger effort by extremist political groups to spread false information and divide people. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán also spoke about the vote. He said it is an important moment for Europe. He believes the vote is connected to bigger problems like corruption and poor leadership. He also said the European Union is not doing enough to support Hungary's economy. Recently, the European Commission told Hungary to make changes to its budget. Hungary's leaders said they will keep focusing on helping families, older people, and local businesses. They said they will not change their plans just to please outside groups. Hungary and the European Union have been arguing for a long time. Billions of euros in EU funds have been frozen because of concerns about Hungary's legal system. With elections coming up in Hungary, Prime Minister Orbán has been speaking out more against the EU, including its support for Ukraine. Segment 9. Iran's leadership future. There is growing talk in Iran about who will lead the country after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He is 86 years old and has been the supreme leader since 1989. He became a possible target during a recent conflict between Iran and Israel. This has made the question of who will replace him more urgent. The last time Iran chose a new supreme leader was more than 30 years ago. The decision is made by a group called the Assembly of Experts. This group is made up of about 80 religious leaders. Some people think Khamenei's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, could take over. Others think it might be Hassan Khomeini, the grandson of Iran's first supreme leader. Some former presidents are also being talked about, like Hassan Rouhani and Mohammad Khatami. Usually, the supreme leader is a religious figure, but some experts say that might change. Iran is facing big problems with its economy and society. Some people think the military might want a leader who is not a cleric. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, already has a lot of power in Iran. They control parts of the government, the media, and the economy. If the next leader is weaker, the IRGC might have even more control. How Khamenei dies could also affect what happens next. If he dies naturally, the new leader might be more moderate. But if he is killed, a more strict leader could take over. Segment 10. NASA staff departures. NASA is losing a lot of workers. A total of 2,694 civil servants are leaving. Most of them work in science and spaceflight. Others work in support jobs like computers and finance. The Goddard Space Flight Center will lose the most people, 607 staff. Johnson Space Center will lose 366, and Kennedy Space Center will lose 311. Even NASA's main office in Washington is losing over 300 people. These changes are happening because of a new budget plan. The White House wants to cut NASA's budget by 25%. That would also mean cutting more than 5,000 jobs. If this happens, NASA would have its smallest team since the 1960s. Some of the job cuts match the White House's goals, but others could hurt future missions to the Moon and Mars. Experts are worried that NASA might lose important knowledge and skills. Even if Congress stops the cuts, it could be hard to hire people back. Many workers are now going to private companies. NASA is still accepting resignations until July 25th. Segment 11. U.S. government actions involving Harvard and a UN official. The U.S. government is taking action against Harvard University and a United Nations official. First, the Department of Homeland Security has sent a subpoena to Harvard. This means Harvard must share documents. The government wants records about international students and immigration rules. Officials say Harvard did not respond to earlier requests. Now, they want to see emails and files going back to January 2020. At the same time, two other departments, Education and Health and Human Services, told an accreditation group that Harvard might be breaking anti-discrimination laws. They are worried about anti-Semitism on campus. These concerns started after the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Because of this, the government has frozen billions of dollars in research money for Harvard. In response, Harvard has filed a lawsuit. The university says it follows the rules and is working to stop anti-Semitism. A spokesperson said the subpoenas were not needed, but Harvard will still follow the law. In a separate matter, the U.S. has placed sanctions on Francesca Albanese. She is a UN expert who reports on the Palestinian territories. The U.S. had tried to remove her from her job but was not successful. Ms. Albanese has said that Israel's actions in Gaza are genocide. Both Israel and the U.S. disagree with her. She also supports the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants for Israeli leaders. The U.S. Secretary of State said her actions are harmful and will not be accepted. Human Rights Watch disagreed. They said the sanctions are meant to silence someone who is doing her job. Segment 12. U.S. trade talks and new tariffs. The United States is in talks with many countries about trade. President Donald Trump has announced new tariffs this week. One big focus is the European Union. The U.S. and the EU were trying to reach a deal by July 9th. That deadline passed without an agreement. but President Trump said talks are still going. He said the EU is now more open to working together. The EU might offer a 10% tariff. That is lower than the 50% the US had suggested earlier. US officials say the EU may let in more American farm products, but European leaders say they will protect their own interests. They also say that tariffs usually end up costing the people who buy the goods. President Trump also announced a 50% tariff on goods from Brazil. This will start on August 1st. He said the trade relationship with Brazil is unfair. He also mentioned the trial of Brazil's former president, Jair Bolsonaro. Brazil's current president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, said his country will respond using its own trade laws. Trump also sent letters to 21 other countries. These include Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and Iraq. The letters explain new tariffs, some as high as 30%. These tariffs will also begin on August 1st. The U.S. says these countries have trade policies that hurt American businesses. Trump said companies can avoid the tariffs by making their products in the U.S. There is also a new 50% tariff on copper. This is because of national security concerns. After the announcement, copper prices went up. Countries in Southeast Asia are worried. They say these new tariffs could hurt global trade. Segment 13. Conditions at a Florida immigration facility. There are reports of problems at an immigration center in the Florida Everglades. This center is run by the state. People being held there and their families have shared their concerns. They say there's not enough water. Sometimes the electricity does not work. When the power is out, the air conditioning and phones also stop working. This makes it hard for people to stay cool or talk to loved ones. There are also problems with the bathrooms. Some people say they cannot bathe properly. Others say the toilets do not work well. One man, Vladimir Miranda, is being held there. He is from Cuba. He said the backup generators are not working well. That causes more power problems. He said this also affects the water supply and the air conditioning. Mr. Miranda had crossed the U.S.-Mexico border. He was allowed into the U.S. with a form called I-220A. Later, he was arrested at work in Orlando. He was then sent to the Everglades facility. These stories have been shared by people inside the center and by their families. Segment 14. Former South Korean President re-arrested. In South Korea, former President Yoon Suk-yeol has been arrested again. A court in Seoul approved a new arrest warrant early Thursday morning. The court said it was worried he might try to hide or destroy evidence. Mr. Yoon was first arrested in January. He was accused of leading an insurrection. That means he was accused of trying to take control of the government in an illegal way. He was released in March because of a technical issue with the first warrant. In April, the Constitutional Court removed him from office. Now he faces more investigations. He is accused of abusing his power and stopping government workers from doing their jobs. A special prosecutor says Mr. Yoon declared martial law in December. That means he used the military to take control. He is accused of sending troops to block lawmakers from entering the National Assembly. He is also accused of ordering the arrest of political opponents. Mr. Yoon's lawyers say the new arrest is unfair. They say the investigation is rushed and political. The case is being handled by a special prosecutor named Cho Yoon-suk. Mr. Yoon can be held for up to 20 days. If more charges are added, he could be held longer. Segment 15. European stock markets rise again. European stock markets have gone up for the fourth day in a row. This rise is mostly because of strong interest in mining companies. Some of the companies that did well include Anglo American, Rio Tinto, and Glencore. Their stock prices went up by more than 4%. These companies mine metals and other materials. Their prices went up because of changes in global markets. China has also taken steps to reduce how much it produces in some industries. This has helped raise the value of raw materials. Investors believe these changes will help mining companies make more money. The Stoxx 600 index, which tracks many European companies, went up by 0.6%. This is the fourth day in a row that the index has increased. It is now on track for its longest period of growth in a month. This shows that investors are feeling more confident. The market is reacting to changes in prices, production, and global demand. Segment 16. Ukrainian security officer killed in Kyiv. A member of Ukraine's security service, known as the SBU, was shot and killed in Kyiv. The shooting happened in the Holosivsky district on Thursday, July 10th. The SBU confirmed the death. Some news outlets said the officer was a colonel, but officials have not confirmed that detail. Police and the SBU are working together to investigate. They want to find out what happened and who is responsible. A criminal case has been opened. It is being investigated under a law that deals with attacks on law enforcement officers. Police are still at the scene. They have released a video from the area. The shooting was first reported at 10:32 in the morning. When police arrived, they found a man with a gunshot wound. He had already died. This is the second deadly shooting in Kyiv this week. Another person was killed in the Desnyansky district on July 8th. Segment 17. Court blocks birthright citizenship order. A federal judge has stopped a new executive order about birthright citizenship. The order was signed in January. It said that children born in the U.S. to parents without legal status would not be given U.S. citizenship. Judge Joseph LaPlante said the order goes against the 14th Amendment. That part of the Constitution says anyone born in the U.S. is a citizen. The judge also said the order goes against past court decisions. This ruling is a nationwide preliminary injunction. That means the order cannot be enforced while the case continues. The judge also approved a class action. That means the case will cover many people who could be affected. The Supreme Court recently said lower courts should be careful about nationwide rulings. But in this case, the judge said a class action was the right choice. Segment 18. Court nominee faces scrutiny. A man named Mr. Bove has been nominated for a seat on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, but some people are raising concerns about his past work at the Department of Justice. Mr. Bove used to be a defense lawyer for the former president. Later, he worked as a top official at the Justice Department. During that time, he was involved in several important legal cases. Another former Justice Department lawyer, Mr. Ruvani, has accused Mr. Bove of saying that court orders could be ignored. Mr. Ruvani said he was fired after telling a judge that the government had broken a court order. At a hearing, Mr. Bove said he never told anyone to break the law. He also said He did not remember using any bad language when talking about court orders, but new messages have come out. These messages seem to support what Mr. Ruveni said. One message is about a judge's order on March 15th to stop a deportation. Segment 19. Immigration agents wearing masks. Some immigration agents in the U.S. have started wearing masks during arrests. The Department of Homeland Security says this is to protect the agents. They say there have been threats made online. But some civil rights groups are worried. They say the masks make people afraid. They also say it is harder to know who the agents are. This could make it harder to hold them responsible if something goes wrong. The government says the masks are only for safety, but the debate continues about how to balance safety and public trust. Segment 20. Flooding in Texas brings quiet grief. In central Texas, heavy rains caused rivers to rise. The Guadalupe River, once a place for swimming and quiet fun, became dangerous. Floodwaters moved quickly, sweeping away cabins and trees. At least 160 people are still missing. Search teams are working carefully. Some came from Mexico to help. Volunteers have lined up to look for those who are lost. Families are trying to stay hopeful. Some are remembering loved ones. Others are waiting for news. The air is still. The water has gone down, but the sadness remains. Officials say the flood response was slowed by paperwork and budget rules. Some people are asking questions. But for now, the focus is on helping those who are still waiting. Segment 21. A fire near Marseille. In the south of France, a wildfire burned near the city of Marseille. The fire moved quickly through dry grass and trees. Smoke filled the sky. Some people called the view apocalyptic. Flights were stopped at the airport. Firefighters worked through the night. They used planes and helicopters to drop water. People in nearby homes were told to leave. By morning, the fire was mostly under control. No lives were lost, but the land is blackened, the air smells like ash, and people are slowly returning to see what remains. Segment 22. A tragic accident at an airport. At an airport, a man died after being pulled into a plane engine. The accident happened on the tarmac, where workers guide planes and load luggage. Officials are still looking into what happened. The man's name has not been shared. His co-workers are in shock. The airline has offered support to the family. The airport stayed open, but some flights were delayed. Travelers moved quietly through the terminal. The mood was somber, a reminder that even in busy places, tragedy can arrive without warning. Segment 23. Protests in Kenya. Turned deadly. In Kenya, people gathered to protest new taxes. The protests began peacefully, but later things turned violent. Police used tear gas. Some people threw rocks. Several people were killed. Others were hurt. Shops closed early. Streets were empty by nightfall. Leaders have asked for calm. They say they will listen to the people, but many are still angry. They say life is getting harder. Food costs more. Jobs are few. And they want change. Segment 24. A new train line opens in Finland. In Finland, a new train line has opened between two small towns. The journey takes just under an hour. The train moves slowly through forests, past lakes, and across quiet farmland. The project took 5 years to complete. Workers laid tracks through frozen ground in winter and soft moss in summer. Local leaders say the train will help students, workers, and older residents who no longer drive. The train has wide seats and large windows. It runs on electricity and makes very little noise. Some passengers say they ride it just to relax and look out at the trees. At the opening ceremony, a small choir sang a folk song. A ribbon was cut. Then the train rolled forward gently into its first official trip. Segment 25. A museum reopens in Belgium. In the city of Ghent, a small museum has reopened after 2 years of quiet renovations. The building is over 200 years old. It once held paintings, then books, then nothing at all. Now it holds quiet again, but this time on purpose. The museum is dedicated to silence. Each room has soft lighting and no labels. Visitors are asked to turn off their phones and speak only in whispers. The exhibits include empty chairs, faded curtains, and recordings of wind. One room has nothing in it at all, just a bench and a window. The museum director says the goal is not to teach, but to slow people down. Some visitors stay for hours, others leave after 10 minutes. Either way, the museum welcomes them. Segment 26. A postal rate debate in Latvia. In Latvia, the National Postal Service is thinking about raising the price of stamps. The change would be small, just a few cents, but it has started a quiet debate. Some people say the price should stay the same. They say letters are already rare, and raising the cost might make them disappear. Others say the post office needs the money to keep running. The government has asked for public comments. People can send in their thoughts by mail or online. The deadline is next month. Meanwhile, the post office continues its work. Mail carriers walk their routes. Sorting machines hum softly, and letters, some happy, some sad, keep moving through the system. Segment 27. A new law about streetlights in Japan. In a small town in Japan, a new law says that streetlights must be dimmed after 11 p.m. The goal is to reduce light pollution and help people sleep better. The change was suggested by a group of high school students. They said the lights were too bright and made it hard to see the stars. The town council agreed. Now, the lights fade slowly each night. Some are turned off completely. People say the town feels calmer, more stars are visible, and the streets are still safe, thanks to motion sensors and soft ground lighting. The students who suggested the change were invited to a council meeting. They sat quietly as the vote passed. Then they walked home under a darker, more peaceful sky. Segment 29. The Museum of Silence in Belgium. In the heart of Ghent, a quiet city in Belgium, known for its canals and cobblestones, a small museum has reopened its doors. But this is not a museum of paintings or sculptures. It is not a museum of war or science or history. It is a museum of silence. The building itself is old. It was once a private home, then a library, then a storage space. For many years, it sat empty. The windows were dusty. The doors stayed locked. People walked past it without noticing. Then, 2 years ago, a group of artists and architects decided to bring it back to life. But they didn't want to fill it with noise or color. They wanted to create a space where people could slow down. A space where nothing shouted. A space where silence could be felt, not just heard. The renovation was slow. Workers used hand tools instead of machines. They kept the original wooden floors. They repaired the windows, but left the glass slightly wavy, like water. They painted the walls in soft shades of gray and cream. They added benches made of smooth stone and pale wood. Now, the museum is open again. It has no signs outside, just a small plaque that says Stilte Huis, which means House of Silence. Inside, there are no labels, no audio guides, no gift shop. Visitors are asked to turn off their phones and speak only in whispers. Some choose not to speak at all. Each room is different. One has nothing in it but a single chair facing a window. Another has a recording of wind playing softly through hidden speakers. One room is filled with old curtains, gently moving as air flows through the building. Another has a long table with blank paper and pencils in case someone wants to write something down or draw nothing at all. There is a room with mirrors, but they are fogged. There is a room with books, but the pages are blank. There is a room with a clock, but it has no hands. The museum director, a woman named Elise, says the goal is not to teach anything. It is to offer a pause, a break from the world outside, a place where people can sit, breathe, and remember what quiet feels like. Some visitors stay for hours. Others leave after just a few minutes. Some cry, some nap, some simply sit and stare. The museum does not track how many people come each day. It does not advertise. It does not ask for reviews. It simply opens its doors in the morning and closes them in the evening. And in between, it holds space for silence, for stillness, for whatever someone brings with them, and whatever they choose to leave behind. In central Texas, the Guadalupe River has long been a place of peace. Families floated down it in tubes. Children played along its banks. Cabins lined the water's edge, tucked between trees and wildflowers. But last week, everything changed. Heavy rains fell for days. The river rose quickly. It spilled over its banks, swept through towns, and carried away homes. Cabins were torn from their foundations. Roads disappeared underwater. Trees bent and broke. Now the river is quiet again, but the damage remains. At least 160 people are still missing. Search teams are working slowly and carefully. Some came from Mexico to help. Others are local volunteers. They walk through mud. They check under debris. They listen for sounds. They hope. Families wait nearby. Some sit in folding chairs. Some hold photos. Some just stare at the water. They are waiting for news. Any news. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, has been helping. But their work was delayed. Officials say cost controls and paperwork slowed things down. Some people are frustrated. Others are just tired. In the town of New Braunfels, a church has opened its doors. People come to rest, to eat, to cry. Volunteers bring blankets and food. Children draw pictures with crayons. One picture shows a house floating on water. Another shows a rainbow. The river will go down. The roads will be cleared. The cabins will be rebuilt. But for now, the town is quiet. The air is heavy. And the people are holding on to each other, to hope, and to the memory of what the river used to be. And that brings us to the end of tonight's quiet journey through the world. We've listened to stories from near and far. Some were heavy, some were light. All were told slowly, with care, and without hurry. The world will keep turning. The headlines will keep changing. But for now, there is nothing more you need to know, nothing more you need to do. Let your thoughts settle. Let your breath slow down. Let the quiet in. Thank you for spending this time with us. We'll be here again soon with more calm stories told gently to help you rest. Until then, good night.